Welcome to Barley and Hops. I'm George. Hey, today we're going to actually run a reflux still, start to finish. But I wanted to show you what the contents were first, and there'll be a follow-on video from this one when we get set up and we'll actually run this. But I just wanted to show you, this is a 3-gallon Mighty Mini from Mile High. And it's a small 3-gallon still, but it does it a wonderful job. It just does it on a smaller scale. And so here's what it comes with: 16-gauge stainless steel pot, very, very durable, very heavy, and it feels like a good piece of equipment. The lid is a domed lid, and it's got a small screen in there, so whatever it is you put in your column for your medium won't fall back inside. There's a neoprene gasket in here, and this thing is really durable and lasts an extremely long time. Plus, it negates the necessity for some of you who have had stills where you had to mix up a paste, or you'll mix up some oatmeal, or usually it's flour or water, but people have used oatmeal, flaked oats, flaked rye, whatever, and they've tried to seal up some of the cracks and everything where you have the connectors. With this one, you don't have to do it. Large clamp goes around the outside, screw that down, and that'll seal that lid nice and tight. Now, some of the other things that this kit comes with, because it's a 3-gallon Mighty Mini, they send you also a gratis pack of turbo yeast. You'll also get with that, you'll get a digital thermometer that goes in the top, and here's the bung. And that's where you take the head temperature, and I'll show you that in just a moment because that's where you check all your temperatures. It'll come with it'll come with two connectors for hoses, a male and a female, so you can hook it up to the garden hose. It comes with a series of clamps, and these series of clamps are for the water hoses that go around the outside. And they normally send you a bag of rashing rings that go inside the column, and this is the medium you use when you actually run a reflux. Now, remember we said it was a Mighty Mini, and it's a dual purpose, so you can run it as a pot still or you can run it as a reflux still. And while I'm putting this together, I'll explain the difference because it's really simple. This is the neoprene gasket for the column. If you're running a pot still, you're going to get more flavor out of your distillate from whatever it is that's inside your pot. If you're going to run a reflux still, you're going to strip a little bit of that flavor, but you're going to get a higher content of alcohol, so you get a higher octane. And sort of like rule of thumb and from experience, a pot still will run somewhere around 130 or 140 proof, but you will retain a lot more of the flavor that's inside the pot. When you're running a reflux still, you can run as high as 185 proof, or some people are even good enough to get a little higher than that. But what the trade-off is, you'll lose a little bit of the flavor. There will be some resident flavor, but you'll lose a lot of it. But you get a really, really spiked high alcohol content, which is really pure. And the reason for that is the reflux action that's taking place in the column. So if we were going to run this as a pot still, now I have my column on here. I'm going to pull these hoses off, and these are the water hoses that come with it. And what I've got now, this comes off real easy. There we go. What I've got now is I've got my still, my column, this is the exhaust port, and this is the jacket that goes around that exhaust port, which is the condenser. And you'll notice here, this is a jacket that goes around the column, and you'll notice there's an in and an out, and that's to turn this into a reflux. So if we were running it as a pot still, we would just ignore the jacket that's around the top. And all we would do is we would run cold water in the bottom, and the cold water goes into the bottom of your condenser, and it will come out of the top of your condenser and go to your discharge. So what takes place now in the pot still version is we have your mash, whatever's in your pot, is brought up to temperature, and 179 degrees is a temperature for ethanol to vaporize. Each still will operate just a little bit differently based on personality and based on what you're doing. And then that steam will rise through this column. It will move up the column, and you'll be tracking it through the head temperature. There's your bung goes there, and your thermometer will be here. So this is known as head temperature. And you'll be tracking the head temperature to control it. It will run up through your head. It'll go through the discharge pipe, and as it goes in here, it's 179 at least, or more, or maybe even less. Yeah, it could be a little bit less. Some run at 173. It goes into the condenser, and the cool condenser will condense that vapor back into a liquid. It will run out here. Now, what runs out is the ethyl alcohol, but what remains inside, as long as you're not overboiling it, is the water. because you don't want to boil the water. You just want to bring off, get it enough temperature to bring off the vapors, which are going to be your ethyl alcohol. Now that's if you run it as a pot still. If we were going to run it as a reflux still, it's a real simple adaptation. We could fill the column with rashing rings, and you could fill the whole column if you want. You could fill half the column. You could use marbles, and a lot of folks use, and we're going to use it today, a lot of folks use a copper mesh, but make sure it's 100% copper. Don't go down to the dollar store and grab the copper scrubbers, because the copper scrubbers aren't going to do it. You want to get some 100% copper that's made into a mesh, and you pack that inside your column as well. Now to turn it into a reflux still, we'll remove the exhaust from the condenser. We'll add this small tube, because what you're going to do is you're going to have whatever comes off the exhaust from your condenser is going to go into the jacket. So you'll be running cold water in. This cold water will cool this condenser, and it'll cool the vapors coming through. The exit port will exit and go right into the jacket that goes around the outside of your column. As it goes around the outside of your column, it's going to start to pre-condense those vapors that are inside your column. When it pre-condenses those vapors, the condensation is going to start to fall. The most volatile substance in that vapor and in that condensation that's starting to fall back through your medium is going to re-vaporize. Then the most volatile substances at this point is the ethyl alcohol. And so that's why we call it a reflux, because it starts to vaporize, it starts to condense, it vaporizes, it condenses, it vaporizes, it condenses, and the most volatile substances make their way through. And then as they make their way through, they get into the exhaust port, and then they condense here. It's a wonderful process. It's a scientific anomaly. It makes absolute sense, and it also makes a very, very high potent spirit. So again, your cold water in, cold water out goes into the condenser, or the jacket that goes around the outside of the column. That will cool this and pre-condense so that it can re-vaporize, and then the water will come back out your exit port, and then you just put that back in the bucket. Just recycle that water over and over again. Or if you're happy, hook up one of the garden attachments, and you can run it from the garden hose. That way you can control the flow. So that's what we have so far.